We're really excited to have everybody on the webinar this afternoon. We're going to talk about delivering extraordinary classroom experiences. We're going to talk about Hays Software Solutions asset management, and we're going to talk about data analytics with the CatchOn software tool. My name is Dan Cooper. I'm the Business Development Manager for Troxell CDI. I look after our Converging Technologies section of the Business Development team. I'm delighted to introduce Anna Maxon, who's the COO at Hays Software Systems, and Chad Arnold, who's the Account Services Manager at CatchOn. I'm going to roll through a couple of slides here. We put some poll questions on the screen. If you get a chance to complete those, that would be fantastic. But in the meantime, I want to give you just the briefest of introductions to Troxell CDI and make sure that you're familiar with us as an organization. We're going to talk about an introduction. We're going to hand over to Anna, and she's going to talk about asset management. We're going to talk to Chad, who's going to talk to us about the importance of data analytics, and we're going to wrap up with plenty of time to spare for questions and answers. In the meantime, if you do have questions as the presentation is passing through, then you can use the Q&A section, which is built into the application for Zoom, or you can use the chat function, and I'll try to make sure that those questions get through to Anna and to Chad. So just to let you know who Troxell CDI has become, two organizations that you may well be familiar with. We've merged to become your education technology solutions powerhouse. There are more than 70 million students across North America, and we've got a long-standing relationship with more than 500 of our technology partners in every single area of classroom technology and educational technology. So as an organization, we now look after audio-visual equipment, mobile learning and one-to-one programs. We can help you with collaborative learning services, asset management, campus safety, integration and installation services, and other services such as ITAD or buyback functionality, protection plans and warranty services. Pretty much anything that you can think of that belongs in the educational technology category within a school or a school district or even a higher education establishment, we're here to help you out. This is a very busy slide. I'm not going to go through this in any great detail because my co-workers here from Hays and from CatchOn are going to be able to take this into much more detail. But we really wanted to get you thinking about these couple of areas that are really a common issue for school districts all over the country. Looking at ways to better understand and be accountable for the physical assets within your organization and the software and applications that are being used across your school district. We really want to help you understand them better, figure out whether they represent good value for you as an organization. Make sure that you know and can identify all of the things that are being used in your organization and help you to reduce the number of assets that potentially go missing and mean that you have to spend money replacing them or report them back to the board and explain the loss or the loss of assets around the organization. So we've got all sorts of exciting things here. I don't want to take up too much time in this introduction because I really want Anna and Chad to get the majority of this information. So I'm going to click onto the next slide. I'm going to introduce Anna Maxon, COO of Hays Software Solutions Systems, and I'm going to hope that she can take remote control of the content. So Anna, over to you. Are you in control there?
I think I am. There we go. Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Well, my name is Anna Maxon. I'm the Chief Operating Officer with Hays Software Systems. I've been with the organization 16 years and have been responsible for creating long-term sustainable partnerships with our school districts. So we work with school districts of all shapes and sizes, over 8,000 schools across the country. And we work some very large school districts with very complex challenges. districts as large as Chicago and Houston and Dallas and Albuquerque, while also thinking about how do we take some of those same practices that a large school district does, which may be very different from what a smaller school district is encountering with less staff, less resources, but all the same challenges in the classroom with trying to understand, how to make the best use of what they have and understanding where it is and how it's being used. So thinking about how to support your clients, all of your customers, your students, your teachers, your administrative staff, because technology is supposed to be seamless. So our applications are really designed to provide that platform of both understanding what resources you have in your district, and then of course, how do you create the best customer support model to support your customers every day? And so that's where our platform really comes into play, where we can see Tip of IT, which is designed for inventory control, asset management, and our Get Help system, which is designed for Helpdesk, work order management, ticket management, really supporting that end user and customer. And so as we think about how these two applications really come together, we obviously serve a wide variety of school districts. And what has made our company successful over the last going on 30 years now is really our connection with understanding what schools are trying to accomplish. So we don't pretend to sit in our offices and understand what you do on your side of your desk every single day. So our conversations are incredibly consultative. We want to understand how you're doing what you're doing, what those challenges are, what your resources look like, and how we can actually solve those different challenges in your own school district. And these are some of the districts that we work with that have those lovely challenges around one-to-one initiatives, tracking high dollar value assets, tracking special funded assets like Title I and special ed and CTE, all of those resources that are such a challenge to make sure that you have the right information at the right time so that you can plan and budget appropriately. And so as we think about how some of that information actually looks for you guys on a daily basis, some of those challenges that you might have, of course, are really understanding these three questions. What do you have? Where are those items and how are they effectively being used? Sometimes, that very first question is where we spend the majority of our time with school districts, and is typically the reason that conversations around inventory management will come to the forefront of that conversation in your own school districts, is the moments where you guys don't know where things are. You don't know what has been purchased in the past. Particularly when you're a new person coming into a district and you're hoping to have all of this data and information so that you can make smart decisions about what is going to happen in the future. How do you plan and budget and support your students and teachers? And so a lot of times this is the driver for making a change of what you're currently doing. So moving from spreadsheets, moving from a fixed asset system, which is really great to track higher dollar value items, but not really great at integrating with the student information system or providing access down to a campus level for check-in, check-out purposes or performing inventory audits. So a lot of the things that we'll be talking about today. So as we think about the bulleted list that we have here, these are a lot of the things that also come to mind as you're starting to identify that maybe you do have a need out there. You want to do something a little bit different. So whether it is on the inventory side or on the help desk side of better supporting your customers, hopefully some of these things resonate with you guys. And now we can talk about how our organization can help you see some relief. So as we are digging into, from a product standpoint, how things can actually be managed and documented on the asset management side of the house, we've truly tried to focus on ease of use as one of the things that we recognize being one of your greatest challenges, is that you can choose a system, you can go through an evaluation process, but truly picking something that's going to be sustainable year over year with the amount of turnover that you tend to have, particularly at the campus level, which is where those assets live. So if the system isn't quick and easy to use, easy to understand, easy to navigate, requires minimum amount of training. That's usually one of your first challenges, is figuring out how do you create that sustainability. So it's one of the things that our application is really designed to help with. It also provides really great integrations with some other systems. And I've got a slide that's going to dig into that, and we can talk a little bit more. Of course, from an inventory standpoint, we want you to have the ability to track anything you want to. So whether it is specific types of devices, like just what you're using for your one-to-one initiative, whether those are take-home or classroom, doesn't matter. You're trying to put those devices in students' hands. Sometimes it goes down into the resources that are actually used in the classroom. So let's make sure, we understand what kind of interactive displays are actually being utilized throughout our different campuses. I want to be able to run quick reports and identify warranty information so that I have data for replacement. So it can go as simple as certain asset types, and maybe even more complex to multiple departments who also have challenges with inventory. So you guys on the technology side sometimes tend to be the wedge into trying new products, implementing new systems. You guys are often the guinea pigs that help other departments truly take on new tools and technology. So this is also another area where being able to support in a district-wide, enterprise-wide system can also really come into play here too. And of course, there is a great need to make sure that there are permissions and controls built into the system so that the right people can get into the application, perform those activities that are important to them, that are their responsibility, but not perform others. And in some cases, not even see other assets because they're not supposed to manage those. So there's lots of really cool user permissions that are also embedded into the application to help you better control who is doing what in the system and whether or not any of those activities are being done appropriately. So we track a log of every single action that's performed in the system, who performed that action and when that action was performed, so that you can truly see an audit trail of the life cycle of those assets. All of that data is being kind of digitally stored for you so that you've got everything at your fingertips in the future. And of course, as we're thinking about systems, we obviously, if you're doing all that work to get data in the system, you want to be able to get the data back out. And looking at reporting is one of the things that application is really designed to provide. So those forecasting for future purchases, making sure that you've got customization of exactly what you're looking at so you can dig down into those details. And a lot of the resources that you have also have special funding requirements attached to them, which means that every once in a while you'll get someone that says, hey, I need to see this purchase order and I want to see every single asset that was bought on that PO, where it is, how it's being used, if it's been disposed of. I want to see a record of everything. So when that happens, our system is designed to be able to provide you all of that detail. And of course, there are moments in life where you want to be able to easily see the age of your inventory. You want to understand whether things are still being covered under warranty or not, whether they're still under the manufacturer's service agreement. We've got the Google AUE, where you want to know that just because I got a great deal on a device, it might only have 2-3 more years left on its ability to be covered underneath that AUE and that service for Google. So there are a variety of different things that you guys are responsible for being able to easily access and understand. And our system is there to help you with all of that different type of reporting. Integrations is also another area where being able to exchange data between other enterprise systems that you're using and our asset management system could really help reduce duplicate data entry. It can ensure that you've got the most accurate and up-to-date information. It can be as simple as just making sure that all of your students are coming in on a nightly basis, and everyone who's leaving the district also is being removed from the software, so long as they don't have assets checked out to them or even charges on their record. So there are a couple ways to make sure that that data is automatically coming in, making it easier for your users to use the system and keep data up to date. And then of course we can do even more complex integrations, sharing data with ERP systems so that new purchases are coming into our software, making it easier to tag and serialize the records attached to PO and funding history. In some cases, that data is also living in a fixed asset system, which is great for financial reporting, and we don't want to replace that from a financial ledger standpoint. But there are some places where that system leaves off and our application can kind of take over. So while the fixed asset system is a great system for understanding accounting practices, our system can really help manage the life cycle of that asset, how it's being used, and in allowing for processes to also be automated that might have otherwise been paper. Our application allows for an entirely digital transfer process where a lot of districts still have a piece of paper that gets signed and sent to one department and they sign it and send it to another. That entire thing can be made electronic, including digital signatures like UPS. So you've got a lot of capabilities to help manage where inventory is going, how it's being disposed of, and there might be some data that needs to get exchanged back and forth to other applications. It's one of the unique things about our organization is continuing to think about how can we make these processes easier and more seamless for you. That might even include MDM systems, where those applications are really great at being able to identify, when is the last time that asset checked in, or when was the last time, or who was the last person that checked in to that particular device. So that can help you also reduce the number of assets that you're looking for on a regular basis, because that application is giving you some more real-time dynamic data based on the network. Where our application is paying attention to where physically was it last and who is supposed to have it. So that kind of combination of those data elements really can allow for you guys to better streamline what you need to focus on as you're digging into inventory. And I think one of the other things going along with our ability to think through what is going to make you successful, we also provide consulting services. We definitely believe as an organization that our tool is fantastic. However, one of the other major pieces that has to go along with that are having the right processes and the right people to use that tool. So as we're thinking about how to make sure that you guys are adopting not only a tool to help you, but also a sustainable practice in your organization to really get value and a return on this investment, was really thinking about, how do you implement these kinds of changes? I've got a couple slides coming forward with some of those things to really think about that we focus on as we're working with new customers, because again, we recognize that the tool is only as good as the people using it and the processes that they're doing on a daily basis. And one of those processes that can really help make sure that your data stays up to date is going to be performing inventory audits. And our system does also incorporate RFID technology as an option. Either way, audits are one of the major ways to make sure that your inventory stays up to date. RFID technology is really fun and it can be used on some very helpful types of assets where I think you can get the most return on that investment. And so the idea being that, I can walk up to a computer cart and that cart is filled with devices. With my little handy scanner and specialized RFID tags on your assets, you can actually identify each one of those assets in milliseconds. So instead of, unplugging it, pulling it out, scanning it, putting it back in, that process now just turns into a snap of a finger and you've got a list of every single asset that is in that particular cart. It's also really great on hard to reach devices as well. Sometimes that equipment that's mounted on ceilings like your access points, routers and switches that have very little space to even put an asset tag. RFID still allows you to get that great signal and verify that inventory is there. All our E-rate auditors love that. So there's a lot of opportunity as well to implement some new technology along with just having a system that allows you to track and see and maintain all of this data. And of course, from a help desk standpoint, you guys get a lot of information so that you can make sure that you are solving requests as fast as possible. You've got quick access to information about your assets because the two systems actually integrate data between themselves. So when a student logs into our Get Help portal and they want to submit a request, they actually see assets checked out to them. Same thing for staff members. So that I can just click on an icon and start my request process. And your technicians have all of that history in Tip of IT available inside the work order. They know when it was purchased, they know what it is, they know when it was checked out to that student. They have a history of all the information about previous tickets. So all of that data is really easy and accessible for them. And of course, it's mobile friendly because we know that our technicians are always on the go and never kind of in a home base. So wherever they can actually access that information to be efficient is where the software really needs to help out. And so those views also really allow someone to be able to dig down into exactly what they need to be able to get their job done. We recognize that, you know, that customer support element of what you're providing on the help desk side is really critical to making sure that your students and staff members feel like they are supported, that technology is transparent. And so it's a big responsibility, and we recognize that having a help desk system that can allow you to have all that information at your fingertips, included knowledge base articles and content that can actually help maybe them even self-serve themselves. But at a minimum, it helps you not have to go look up information all the time. It's all in one place, all in the Get Help system. We just have 5 more slides where we want to talk about some of the things that can actually help a new school district come on board and think about what to do to get some of these ideas that we've thrown out here under control and start to think about what this looks like for your own schools. And I think number 1 of our 5 areas is absolutely leadership. Making inventory and customer support a priority it's a hard challenge, but the only people that can do it are people that can help put in these processes and help make it easy for other people to get on board and understand their roles and responsibilities. Obviously, sometimes that means that things need to be reprioritized at the same time, but leadership is key to making sure that a new process that's coming on board is really going to have sustainability over time as well. Number 2 is all about buy-in from your end users. So thinking about how do we make sure that all of these processes that we're talking about are truly going to be adopted, because we recognize that what gets measured gets done. And so how do we put in the right training, the right resources, so that staff can be efficient? Because we recognize that as new tools are being implemented into your district, that has a big impact. There's a lot of change management that's got to go on with your staff to truly adopt new systems and processes. And this little question our person is asking here is, what's in it for me? That's big. If it makes my job harder, if I don't be more efficient, if I don't understand why I'm doing new processes, it's going to be a harder adoption process. So thinking through that as you're implementing a new tool like this. Of course, one of the things that most people tend to think about as they're moving into, you know, how do I truly adopt an inventory process? How do I make sure that this investment that I'm about to make in a tool is truly going to lead where I want it to go and solve my challenges? And people tend to get stuck around not feeling like they have good data. I don't have a baseline of inventory, or I have some data, but I don't really trust it. You know, it's been, you know, documented over multiple people or multiple years, and it's just not consistent. Those are all normal challenges. So let's talk it through. Let's figure out what some of those options are so that you can move forward. Otherwise, we're just standing still, and you guys are still having to deal with those challenges of what to do to plan and budget and identify special funded resources. All of that's still going to keep happening. So we absolutely have heard it all, and we're willing and able to talk you through what's going to make you guys successful. Number 4 is all about thinking maybe a little bit outside the box, because sometimes the things that maybe finance cares about are higher dollar value items. You guys care about things that might be a little bit different. A lot of the technology that you're buying now isn't necessarily high dollar value, but it's highly critical to your organization. So thinking outside the box about what should be tracked, how to make sure that that's maintained over time, all of that is also a piece of kind of thinking about, you know, where do you start? Where do you kind of get the most opportunity for asset management? And then, of course, standardizing your data can also be a really big challenge. And so thinking about, you know, where do you want to go? What does some of that reporting look like in the future? And recognizing that sometimes going back in time is a lot harder than just starting from now, and let's put this process in place so that we have the data we need moving forward. Dan, that was our presentation for today.
Fantastic, Anna. Thank you very much indeed. I really think that asset management is a key area that schools and school districts can make a significant impact on the way that they invest in their equipment and how they make the most of those assets. Just on an anecdotal level, I was working with a large school district who told me, or their tech director told me, that the worst day of the year for him was the day that he had to sit down with the CFO and write down a number that represented the value of the assets that had gone missing or had to be replaced during the course of that year. And that number was significant, and he felt responsible for it. The superintendent felt responsible for it, and the board of the school, or the school district board, felt responsible for it too. So being able to reduce those numbers, being able to make certain that the money that's being invested in education is being looked after and accounted for properly, I think is a huge benefit of asset management. I'm going to hand you over to Chad. Chad is going to talk to us about something related but different in its own way, and he's going to, I hope you've got the controls there, Chad. He's going to talk to us about data analytics for software services. Chad, it's over to you.
Thanks, Dan. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chad Arnold. I'm an account service manager with CatchOn. A little background about myself and CatchOn. I've been, about 2 years ago, CatchOn was acquired by a company called Education Networks of America, more commonly known as just ENA. And since then, the ENA CatchOn marriage, we now serve over 5,000 plus sites and close to 3 million students across the U.S. We are specific to K-12 and higher ed. I'm going to walk you through a quick presentation of actually what's happening with CatchOn. If I can figure out how to control this, and you'll see my play on words from my nifty marketing team. There we go. I figured it out. So what's happening with CatchOn? So thank you, marketing team, for that. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of what I like to call commercial insight. And I work with several districts across the country, and I'm always looking for insight when we talk about data analytics. And here's a little bit of did you know? And I'd love to get some feedback in the chat on this as well. So EdWeek Market Brief Analysis found on average 67% of educational software licenses go unused. And in some districts, up to 90% of software licenses were unused. I talked to a lot of district administrators, and no one ever seems to be shocked by this. And if you are not shocked by this, you need to go back and look at your team and evaluate some things. In the U.S. education market space, districts spend about $8.4 billion with a B on ed tech software a year. With those numbers of unused software, that can mean $5.6 billion wasted annually. So I want to take a second here and pause, and in the chat, I'd like to ask the audience, how many applications do you think are being used in your district? So if you think about, if we have teachers in our audience and attendees, teachers and staff, how many applications you might use on a daily basis? I'm interested to see a number in the chat for how many you think might be being used in your school district in, say, a week's time or even a month or 60 days. And then I'll actually give you the average on what we found. Would everyone chime in at once, please? Okay, I see 15 apps. Thanks, Theodore. Looking for some more responses. I'm definitely interested to see these numbers. Okay, 30. I'll pause about another 30 seconds or so, and then I'll actually give you the magical number of what we're seeing. We have 15, we have 30. You guys are way off. So on average, CatchOn, we are capturing anywhere from 600 to 1,600 applications inside of a school district. Our numbers represent that only 6% of apps in use have been approved from a school district, and the number of unknown apps are 15 times higher than what are thought to be used. So if you think about, if we have teachers in the audience, the number of apps you use on a day-to-day basis, multiply that by 15, and then add that by every teacher in your school district, and that's how we're coming up with that number. We're discovering a ton of applications. Still having trouble with this slideshow. Oh, there we go. And let's talk about the power of visibility. So without better visibility in technology investments, districts cannot be sure they're maintaining data security, efficiently allocating resources, and offering students the best possible outcome. So how well is your district managing ed tech? So this is questions that I get asked all the time whenever I'm working with districts. And these are questions I actually take back and challenge administrators and other teams at districts about what their team's actually doing. So how are you tracking app usage to ensure data privacy compliance? You know, how are you gathering and analyzing data to formulate professional development? How are you monitoring how students are using their school devices in and out of school? So I like to talk a lot about doing an ed tech audit. We actually just released a brief today on the steps and processes doing an efficient ed tech audit in your school district. You can go to our website and take a look at that. I would highly suggest that, and I can even put it in the chat later, but it'll walk you step by step through the policies and procedures. And I see now why Dan and the team at Troxell and CDI brought Hayes and us together, because they're talking about those assets that you can physically touch. We're talking about those assets that schools and districts are using on those devices every single day with the applications they're using. And of course, that big question there at the bottom, how are you measuring your ROI to determine your technology budget? Everyone's always want to look at that word ROI. I kind of hate it. I like to use the word VOI, value on investment. How are you measuring that in helping your students get the best possible outcomes with using those applications that are being used inside your school district? I'll go to the next slide. Dan, I actually think you're still controlling this guy.
I may have taken over briefly. Hold on.
Okay. Can you take me to the next one, please? So just how Anna was talking about policies and procedures and challenging your team, I like to use the phrase, the pain of same can be greater than the pain of change. So if you think about making those policies and procedures in your school district, you may be like, we may not want to figure out all the applications that are being used in your school district, because then we'll have to take steps to actually correct those policies and procedures. So more questions to ask your team on how you're actually using the policies and practices in your school district through that visibility. So monitoring, how do we detect unknown or unapproved tools that are being used? Do all the tools used meet our student data privacy requirements? So how are we monitoring everything that's being used? How are we measuring those tools that we're responsible for? And then how are we adapting? We can collect all the data in the world on all these applications, but it's about the action items that we do behind that data that really makes an improvement and change in our school district. So what action do we take when we detect unapproved usage? Are we proactively managing our student data privacy risk? So we're going to help you discover all those applications, but it's going to be up to you and your policies and procedures to actually make those changes. And the great thing about when I say that is we have someone who is my right-hand person, will actually be your right-hand person, is our customer success manager that will work with you on a day-to-day basis. Our customer success manager that will figure out your goals and objectives for using this data. And we use that, what we call a success criteria, and we will build upon what you want to see with that data. Maybe you have a new math application that you're releasing out to your school district that you want to implement and see how that implementation is going throughout the school year. That person, that customer success manager, will work with you to figure out how well that initiative is going through for you through the school year. So let me talk about a few core features for CatchOn, and then I'm actually going to jump out of this boring slideshow because I know it's the afternoon and we're getting the afternoon yawns. And I'm going to actually show you the dashboard itself. So some core features. We have user-based dashboards for CatchOn. We'll collect all the data inside of that, but you'll have customizable reports through tiles and widgets. So your CTO may have a different dashboard than what your chief academic officer may see or your superintendent may see. We'll have customizable device reporting for you. So we'll show how much your devices, no matter what device you use in your district, we'll show reporting on that in and out of school. We are probably the only company that works on Mac, iOS, Windows, and Chrome to collect all of that data. We do that through an agent that resides on the actual machine and sends it up to our E&A Trust Compute Cloud. We moved away from Amazon's cloud about a year ago upon acquisition with E&A, and if you can imagine all the data we're collecting, our Amazon bill was atrocious. So we've moved that over into E&A's Trust Compute Cloud, and we're able to show all this into a nice, pretty dashboard that I'll show you here in a second. We've also added what we call our class level module. We've done that through our implementation of One Roster Standard through IMS Global. So now you can actually see down not only into a campus grade level, we're actually going to be able to give you visibility into your classes and section. And with those customizable reports, your principals will actually be able to see what your class, your teachers and staff are doing inside those classes with the applications they're using on an everyday basis. So let me talk about the 4 key areas that everyone will see inside of CatchOn. We're going to have tiles that I'll show you around your total users. So we'll show your expected users, your active and inactive users, your overview of users by grade, campus, time of day usage, and we'll do that same type of reporting on your devices. So we'll show your total number of unique devices used, the OS usage, the browser usage, apps by device, and that time of day usage. Our trending applications section is where we're going to discover everything you didn't know. So what's trending inside your district and where is it trending at? And that's where we go back to that number of discovering anywhere from 600 to 1,600 applications inside your school district. This is where we're going to show all of that. And then your renewal status. You'll be surprised to hear, it may not surprise you actually, how well you're managing those applications or renewals inside your school district. I talk to a lot of administrative business offices and they've got spreadsheets over here, spreadsheets over there, and we help them manage all those applications in one central location to where you can see everything that's being purchased and when those renewal dates are coming up for you. So we'll monitor all that for you. That's my face, that's my contact information. Let me actually jump out of this and I'm going to show you a quick overview of the dashboard itself. So this is actually what our CatchOn dashboard looks like, and this is a live representation of all of our data. So these are the 4 tiles that we have here at the top that I was talking about that we'll report on. So we're going to see your active versus inactive users during the week, through the school year, your devices, what devices are being used and how much they're being used. And this could justify things such as for refresh on devices if you need to take that to superintendent or the board to justify funds. We can show how much those devices are getting used in and out of school for you. We'll manage all your total costs for you, and we'll show your total cost per user. And then we have your trending applications. We'll discover every application that's being used inside your school district, no matter whether you know about it or not. These are the tiles and widgets below that I'll show you, and these are customizable to every individual's unique profile. We can easily add a new widget and build it out. I've created some widgets that I have here on my dashboard. One that I'm looking at today is an application at a district level for all grade levels and how much it's getting used over that day. So how much did IXL get used on my Windows devices or my Chrome devices? I can see all of that reporting here. We see we've got a gap here. Obviously, no one was probably using them between 5 and 6 a.m., so we can see all of that. Another widget I've built out is our top 10 applications for a section for a specific time. So we can actually see an elementary school, language arts 5th grade in our section. So we're drilling down on a specific date for an actual application or, excuse me, a school and a grade and a section level. And we're seeing all the top applications that are being used for that specific section. I've built out tons of other widgets that we can look at for devices in and out of school, other application usage for time of day, And we can customize these for anybody that we want. Our customer success manager that I mentioned earlier will help you build these out, goes over your goals and objectives for using this. And then we can actually create new dashboards and then share them out with other users. So I've got one for Title I, and then a curriculum one dashboard built out as well. And I can share these with whoever I want in my campus for customizable reporting. Another area I'll jump into is my applications section. And this is where we're going to show you more granular, detailed information about the applications you care about. And I use the term applications you care about because these could be free applications or they could be ones that you pay for. One I'd like to show here is Duolingo. I've got a heart beside it because it's a favorite of mine. So this might be a principal's favorite for his or her school that they want to look at. And I can customize that. But information we give you around this app is average daily users, license in use, your cost per license, your renewal dates for you. We tag all of these, and then you can add district tags. So I've added one here that says Title I. Maybe we purchased with Title I funding here. We can see that. As I scroll down, we can see a usage trend over a time interval, and I can easily change this time, or we can drill down to our specific schools or look at it at a district level. I can see how much Duolingo is being used on my devices. The big part for a lot of people and a lot of chief financial officers is the license uses and cost. So over this time interval, we're looking at we have 2,100 license here. We've currently only used 1,075 of that, and we show our not used license costs. We're wasting about $3,700 on this license by it not being used. And that's where we show a lot of the value on investment around that application. We can easily change this and look at our last 30 days and see the time interval and cost change for us. Our renewals, so we manage all our renewals for this. And then a general tab. So this will show you, we crowdsource a lot of information inside of here. So we're showing other districts inside of the CatchOn database that are tracking it, other districts that have approved it, and the average license per district. We also show you the publisher, the app website, and the privacy policy. We are doing a lot around privacy policy right now and student data privacy. One thing that we will be able to do in the near future is scan those privacy policies for you and alert you of changes inside of those, because today you may sign up with a vendor and they may change that privacy policy on you tomorrow, and they may or may not alert you of that, but we will. We will be looking a lot at more things around student data privacy, such as vetting and approving those processes, but that's further down the road. But we're leaning towards helping you look at those apps that you may not be aware about and helping you manage those applications and those privacy policies. And the great thing about all of this is we don't have to jump into each one of these applications to get this information. We can do it from this one central dashboard. So as some of you may know, you may have to request some of this information from a vendor or log into it and find that information somehow. We give you all that information very easily at your fingertips right here. Our license management areas where we're going to manage all your license for you. So as you can see, we've got all of our apps, if it's a district-wide app or if it's per campus. We can look at our expiration dates for all of these and see when it's expiring. We currently have 2 that expired, and we can take actions around that inside of here. Our applications library currently has, I think we're close to 2,400 applications. Oh, we're at 2,500 now. We have a team that actually builds these out for us and curates these profiles. And you can easily add license for these inside of here. So we build out all these application profiles that you can sift through and look at. Back to our dashboard, I want to show you these last 2 tiles, and then I'll hand it back over to Dan for questions around this. We manage all your total cost. So this is what our district cost is, what our cost per user is, and we can look at, all of the applications we have and what we're spending on our users at our district. Easily cipher through and manage all of these. And the last piece, which is usually the biggest piece for a lot of districts because there are a lot of unknowns when it comes to applications, is our training applications section. And this is where we'll discover everything, whether you know about it or not. And I'll repeat this because it's a big piece of what we do, is that we can track and discover all these applications no matter what device you're using in your district. It could be on a Windows machine, iOS, iPad, Windows. We will be able to discover any of those applications through our platform on any of those devices. We can click on any of these and add them to our approved list, add a license for it, and then we'll show you all that information around that application inside of here. Dan, I'm going to stop sharing and pause there. If you want to put the slideshow back up, if you could, I can also add my contact information to the chat. I think we have a couple Q&As as they popped up there, if we want to address those at all.
Yeah, thank you, Chad. I saw a couple of those. Coming up. I don't see the panel now. Hold on, Q&A. Here we go. Okay, so question from Dorothy that says, when Chad states that we'll monitor, etc., are we still in control of the information involved within the software?
Oh, 100%. So what we do is we mostly help you enter that information that you know about, right? The ones probably that your business office is paying for, and that's where our license management comes into play. But then we discover those applications, and that's why I started out talking about those policies and procedures, because you got to have those in place first, because you can collect all the data in the world, but it's what you do with it after that that really makes an improvement in student outcomes and learning. So yes, 100% you will have control of all the information inside of CatchOn. We're just there to kind of assist you with managing that information inside the dashboard.
Hopefully that answers your question, Dorothy. If there are any other questions, feel free to contribute them either through the Q&A or through the chat box. We're really pleased to have had you all on the call. Hopefully you can see the last slide here, which has what you can do next. We'd really love to present to you directly. We'd love to get a group of your key stakeholders and decision makers who might be involved in either the asset management or software data analytics thoughts within your organization. The best way to do that is to contact your Troxell CDI rep. Hopefully you're familiar with that individual, but if you're not, you can send an email to info@cditechnologies.com and put "who is my account executive" in the subject line. You're also welcome to reach out to me directly. My name is Dan Cooper. You can contact me at dan.cooper@trox.com. I will make certain that information gets to the right person. But from here, we would love to talk to you some more, because our experience tells us that every single school district is different. Your needs and challenges are going to be different. And we'd love to learn some more about what you're doing, what your challenges are, and perhaps we can work together to overcome some of those challenges and help you to gather information and ultimately learn more and save money where we can help you in those ways. Any other questions from anybody? We've got kind of 2 minutes left. If there are any questions that that people need, we'd love to answer them. But otherwise, we'll wrap up and let you get back to the rest of your day. Any last contributions, Chad or Anna?
No, thank you for everyone's time today. This has been a pleasure. As Dan said, reach out to your Troxell CDI rep. They will get in touch with me. Happy to do any personalized demonstrations with you and your team. If you need anyone else at your district to take a look at this, happy to get in touch with you and talk further. So thank you, Dan, for setting this up.
No problem. Thank you, Chad. Anna?
I realized you guys couldn't hear me. I was on. Love it. I'm sorry, I had the dog barking out there. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. And of course, you know, as we mentioned, the idea of solving some of these challenges is very consultative. So we absolutely want to have an opportunity to kind of talk through what's going on, demonstrate how the software or processes might work for you guys. We absolutely are very similar in what we're trying to solve. In the process of working with Troxell CDI is really great.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Chad. We really appreciate everybody attending the webinar. We'll make the link available to you because we've recorded all of this as well. So we'll make the link available for everybody. Yeah, we're very grateful to have some of your time this afternoon. We'll give you every chance to get back to the rest of your day, and we'll look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.